Yes and no with literacy. One of the things that we in climate psychology I think, very alert to is the fallacy of the information deficit model.
Right.
And I think that a lot of scientists and a lot of activists have been caught up in the perception that if only people have a bit more information, a clearer analysis, a more convincing, irrefutable set of data, then they will wake up and they will pay attention to the carbon footprints of their own individual lives, and they will demand that their politicians, their leaders take action, and so on. And I think the message is sinking in that just is not an adequate approach to the problem, and that we have to enter the maze of complex human and cultural reactions to a problem like this. And to, for instance, take on board the fact that people select information which confirms their existing worldview, and they form social groupings which reinforce that. And of course, the internet is very double-edged in a similar way, in that we have the information superhighway, in which all the information we could possibly need is available to us. But what actually happens, perhaps more often than not, is that people enter an echo chamber in which their views are reinforced by others of a similar disposition for whatever reason, psychological, ideological, self-interest and so on. And they engage in conversations which reinforce those pre-existing views and wishes, and filter out information which doesn't accord with that. And I think we can see that going on at every level in our society.
Back a step about getting into the maze. Can we talk a little bit about a strategy or a method for engaging in that?
And that goes to the heart of what the Climate Psychology Alliance is all about, because there are people doing amazing work all over the world. I can think of several in America and also in Australia at various levels. But it still lacks coherence, and that's inevitable because psychology is a very diverse body of practice, and you're going to get different views and so on. But part of the vision of the Climate Psychology Alliance was to construct a forum or a stage where people can see the doors leading to various lines of thought. And the people working in those areas can come out and appear on the stage and communicate with each other. So part of our raison d'être is very much to try to move things towards a greater connectivity, a greater coherence, and improved skills of communication. Because communicating this information is a really, really challenging business.
If I put out an interview and it gets 20,000 views, the numbers seem high. If it gets 100,000 views, the numbers still seem high, but there's a very good chance I haven't really got beyond the choir, so to speak. It hasn't really penetrated anyone new, and if it hasn't penetrated anyone new, then really you're speaking to the same people over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right to voice that concern. And you know, I grapple with it all the time. The CPA has a website, and you know, some month we might get 1,000 or more visits. And I would like to believe that of those 1,000 people visiting the website, that they're talking to another 1,000 people, and so on. But I have no solid information to that effect. And I think a small piece of the answer to your question and concern there is flagged up by George Marshall of Climate Outreach, when he says that the key thing is to listen to people, and that you're not going to get very far if you, and the echo chamber thing, you know, applies to ourselves as well. We may be very confident that we've got sound information, but it's not much use if it's just recycling within a relatively small group. a group that can perhaps all too readily be dismissed as the Greens. Professor Andrew Samuels, his subject is he's a Jungian analyst and a political consultant, and he's homing in on the question of how you take the green message out of the margins, and that involves questioning ourselves quite rigorously. For instance, about the language that we use.
Yes.
And of course, George Marshall is also very strong on that one, and he has done quite a lot of work on the language of the centre right, for instance, and it is very challenging because we all have our own language, and people like me might be very comfortable talking about the environment. But an innocuous word like the environment can trigger some very negative responses, whereas a word like countryside or landscape could have very different resonances for another group of people.
It's actually looking at the framing of how we communicate.
Yes, and being receptive. We feel, and that sounds sort of disarmingly easy in a way. You just listen to people, and that is part of what the psychotherapeutic perspective brings in. It's trying to create a space, an opportunity between two people or within a group of people, in which there can be a fruitful exchange of views and feelings and information. But it's easier said than done in everyday activity, and I think it's a gem of an idea that George has come up with there, which is that we start off by taking a position of quietening our own passion, containing our own passion, and listening to what people have to say, and listening out for an opening where there might be some common ground. It might be a concern about the quality of our environment, or whatever we call it, or it might be a concern about what kind of world our children and grandchildren are going to inhabit. Usually, in the course of a conversation, if we listen and if we're quiet, opportunities will open up for a common ground to be established and explored and hopefully built upon.